Hey guys and girls, just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Buzzsprout. Start a podcast today with free podcast hosting for Buzzsprout, easy podcasting software for hosting, promoting, and tracking your podcast. Buzzsprout is the best way to publish a podcast online for secure and reliable hosting to full iTunes support. Get started for free, no credit card required, cancel at any time.
Stats for losers.
That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game.
Welcome to the Airin podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Airing It Out podcast. I am your host, as always, Dustin Marion. Today, my guest is Don Casey. He calls himself just a coach, but I like to say that he was a heck of a coach. Thanks for coming on to the show, Don. How you doing?
Yes. Well, like everyone else, we're dealing with the situation, hoping that the vaccine will come in and, calm things down, hopefully. But like anyone else, we're dealing with it.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Being that you're a little bit more mature, do you have to be a little bit more careful and things like that? You look like a healthy guy.
We don't go out much. Yeah, we don't. I wouldn't. Yes, but the healthy people get it, and quickly it's got its own mutation. It goes right to the lungs. But no, we're conscious of not going out. The doctors that we deal with, as you age, your immune system fades a little bit because it's been working so long to keep you, healthy, that when you get to be 80, Christ, the damn thing's, tired and you are susceptible. But with the mask and complete social distancing, we're just literally waiting this thing out.
Yeah, I know. News comes out today that Pfizer gets the green light for the vaccine. Hopefully, this can maybe change the canvas a little bit, because it has been not only stressful but also worrisome in the direction that we seem to be going.
Oh, it's huge. I deal with ALS patients. Been involved with it for a long while, and they're very conscious of people coming in to see them. We, have to go to the doctors to get treated, etc. And they're very vulnerable, and everyone's very conscious of that. So it's you got to use your brain, because the others are using their brains to help us, and to flaunt that you're being told to do something that you think you should make your own mind up for. Well, I get that, but also we're being told to wear a seatbelt and to wear a helmet when you're, say, riding a motorcycle, because they've shown through accidents, unfortunately, and the insurance people, that those who have protected themselves in advance have had less injuries, major injuries, when it came to a catastrophic problem. And the mask is, as we would say in the NBA, you're playing defense in advance by protecting yourself, and in a way protecting those around you that may get it from you if you're, quote, a spreader. This macho stuff that's been going on in Washington, with people dropping all around the Oval Office and even into the Senate, etc., is ludicrous. I mean, it's don't flaunt. This is a very mystical happening, and it's very contagious. It's worse than the normal flu. So yes, the generations, I think we have to be, very alert and very protective for ourselves and for those around us.
Do you feel, staying in that same vein, do you feel now, we just witnessed the NBA playoffs being played in a controlled environment, but now the new season is upon us. Do you think that it was wise in the positions that we're in and some of the stuff that you're talking about, especially with advanced defense, that it was a good idea to play almost back-to-back seasons in the same year?
Yes, I think they had to do it, or they wanted to do it, to keep the momentum going, to keep the interest up, and to keep the TV contract in place, because they still lost a lot of money. And, unless you do with Major League Baseball where they start contracting the salaries. But you could do it in basketball because there's only maybe 15 people and coaches 20 in the party, where other sports have a large number. And they pulled it off. They hadn't, I think, one case among 750 people for all that time. And that's even people that were going back and forth that were working in the hotels. So I think they proved that you could do it in that, controlled environment. Now, you can't duplicate that. It's too difficult. But I think they had to do it for financial reasons, keeping the rhythm of the season, etc. And I don't know what alternative that they could have done.
With gentlemen like LeBron James, who has had not only a successful career but a very long career, some of these teams that were in the playoffs in this last bubble, do you feel like there's going to be a bit of fatigue starting the season?
Could be. It could be with those players, but today, believe me, what they're doing, which was not prevalent back in the 90s and early 2000s, is with the nutrition, counting the electrolytes, monitoring them. They can do blood samples to see if they have oxygen is going through. It's really a very scientific league now for players, and players, want that to happen because they want to extend their career for a lot of reasons, but mostly for money. If you can stay in the league 10, 12 years, you're in good shape. So the players go along with it as much as they can. I think they've limited back to back. They're playing like two teams will play in the same town, etc. They're doing what they can for players, for the owners. We need owners, and we need fans. So they don't want to. I believe they don't want to break the rhythm, the routine of watching, becoming a fan. And I thought they did a very good job with the games down there, making you feel like fans were there. I think the NFL has copied that, but it's a whole new scene, and it's yet to be shown if it'll work out.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. I know that health has always been important with you on and off the court, and at times you've been an ambassador for it. Do you feel that with everything that's going on and all the science that we have, that people aren't discussing more healthier choices in a lot of other lifestyles besides just the NBA?
Well, when I was on the President's Council for Sports and Fitness back in for 7-8 years, they were coming up way back then in the 90s with 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds in Texas coming up with diabetes too, mainly because of the diet. And physical education did not it lost its presence in high schools because it created the first time that anyone would be embarrassed. Like you couldn't do a pull-up or you couldn't do this, or the locker room changing became a challenge where as one matured and the other one did not. So the physical education people caused their own problems, which eventually they just faded it out. We proved that large muscle activity is essential for health. Like kids running around up to they're like 10, 12 years old. And then as we get older, we tend to go away from that. So, the walking, the treadmill, things of that nature enhances everything. the oxygen in your blood to help you with your brain. It's the old proverb was look good, feel good, play good. Well, if you want to look good, then you might diet. You want to feel good, you got to move. You got to move you got to move the heart. You got to get the cardio up. Not in speed, and then you'll work good and you'll play good, and it's an all around feeling. So that is being pushed back at one time. Now it's up in the front again. That just a large muscle activity like Richard Simmons, jazzercise, things of that nature are very productive for us. And it's hard for people to get into it. But once they get into it, they kind of like it. And even us older people, that you just feel like you've done something that day, you sleep better, and it's a general, good feeling all the way around.
To stay in that kind of similar on that topic, when you was a young guy, early into your, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, were you a really active kid? I mean, seems heading into sports and stuff like that was kind of something that you might have been interested young.
Well, free play was the issue. Was the only thing you could do in those days. And, if you go into New York where they had the stickball games, and you go, and like I lived in a town across in Jersey, about 8 miles from Philadelphia, called Collingswood. It was one of those little towns, Collingswood, had their all butt up. And they had their lots, and they had their park where you went and played. Home runs, touch, football, and so forth. So, there was nothing to do but to go outside. I mean, TV was there, but it was not daytime programs. So there was no, lingering around the house, would drive you nuts. So it was the routine to go out. Today, as time moves on, it's more constructed with the Little League and the Pop Warner and things of that nature. And now with the social media, they cling into the house more than outside the house. That's a lot of soccer and that, but that doesn't hit the whole, gamut of the public. So now I, spoke with the President's Council people about a year ago, and it's coming up again. Younger people are getting diabetes too. More are not, feeling good about themselves. The peer pressure. So the activity of joining and being with a group has, tremendous merits, young and old.
Yeah, no, I find that it's insane based on what you were saying, that you guys brought some of these discussions and topics up, late 90s, early 2000s, kind of faded away. And now it seems to be extremely important, and all the data seems to back it up. And that's kind of scary. If we're not moving, we get sicker, younger, and develop these diseases at an early age. So that's definitely, it got to be a challenge when the agenda made sense from the beginning, but they also didn't pay attention to the tea leaves that they were reading.
Well, the Obama administration, Michelle's, they really had a push on the school lunch programs. Not just feeding them to fill them up, to create a sense of, vegetables. I mean, what kid likes broccoli or cauliflower in that vein? This present administration, it just threw it all out. When you got a president that goes to a McDonald's and Wendy's because he thinks he's going to get poisoned, you got a lot of problems with eating habits among the young.
Yeah, no, that's was number one. For sure. This was a terrible leadership role from his behalf.
I mean, going to McDonald's and Wendy's because you think you're going to get poisoned. I mean, how bizarre is that? So the young kids are playing off what they, hear and see. That part of the trickle down. The President's Council is not as strong as it once was. It's a federal law that you must offer physical education in every state upon the state's approval, which means what? Do you want a computer teacher or do you want a phys ed teacher? and that's what they back in the 2000s. That's what they're facing. So the odds are, and again, now that they've changed the concept, parents remember how they got either intimidated through physical education because they couldn't do a push-up or they couldn't do a pull-up, and they were bullied to some extent. So that part still plays in our minds. Where today, where they're doing more group activities, like you see in the fitness clubs, is the answer, because no one stands out as being inadequate, and that's very important when you're growing up.
Yeah, no, I still remember a lot of my early physical educational teachers, and remembering having immense camaraderie with your mates, whether it was playing kickball or basketball or dodgeball, and how much fun, and you get to move around, and it's a blast, especially for trying to develop children early. You were telling me before, when you started to when you was a kid, whether it was stickball or playing two-hand touch. How old were you when things started to get a little bit more dialed into the sense where the emergence of the NBA started to get prevalent, college basketball and some of these other things? Were you still in your teens when that started to happen, and you kind of grew up with that transition?
Well, in high school, I played at high school, but I didn't make the teams till my senior year, and I was like a practice player. I didn't get prime minutes whenever, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the coaches. I enjoyed the teaching, learning, the camaraderie of a teammate, being part of it, and I knew that I was limited. I liked the game. All three sports, I played all three, and didn't, really excel in any one of them. I got letters, but in each one, but it was a composite. And it was more to me as an only child, and going to a Catholic high school, big Catholic high school, and meeting people from all over the area, not just from my town. Really was engaging. And getting on a team was like being part of something. Not that college or high school. Not that being on that team is poor, but being on a team where you have people from like 27 different towns, according to a high school, was really unique and created even a base of diversity and meeting people from different areas. So that part is. I benefited from the sport, and I really appreciated, and not in all, but respected those on the team that were more skilled and could really play. It was really an interesting experience for me, because the separation between me and them was a gap, and I knew it, but I had fun, participating.
Going back to something that you had said a little earlier, with us trying to get the kids in physical education of some sort, how important was it for you? And I know you just kind of touched on it a little bit, but how important was it for you to be in that melting pot? Because you get to see so many different walks of life and so many backgrounds, but we all come together to win is our ultimate goal, or to at least excel together at one particular thing.
Well, it can be that precise, but the fun and games, are playing. Like when we were at the council, the United States, when the children were in fourth grade, were 1 and 2 in math and science. When we got to 11th and 12th grade, they were in 24 and 27. Now, what happens in between? Now, you can hypothesize in a lot of areas. In Europe, they have a constant flow of club sports. There's no high school sports, and you're in it. If you're in this little town, you're in a club sport. There's Division 1, 2, 3, 4, all down, and also there's not that many cars in parts of Italy and all. You ride bicycles or you walk. So that was the other hypothesis, that they were more active, and maybe because of being active, they were in better condition, felt better, et cetera. There was no study to prove that. But why do we go from at fourth and fifth grade so high down? You can't blame it on the teachers. And what happened to the kids? Are they out of shape, or are they dabbling in other areas? So, I mean, there's a lot of, the best of the best is here. And if you look at the stats, we are so low in the mortality rate for children being born. We're like 11th or 12th in the world. And we drop. It's incredible that happens. Now, on the other hand, if we get a hold of people, and we practice, the good parts of living, even taking vitamins and herbs or whatever you want, we can extend life. We can, make the quality of life when you get over 60, 65, rather than just existing, that there is a quality. And that's like in MS and ALS and other, motor neuron diseases. The whole cry is to make the quality of life enhanced while they're working on, cures or medicine or gene therapy to make it better for people. So it's a matter of, I guess, just instinctive survival and having fun. And there's no better having fun than with a group, whether it's in an orchestra or whether it's bocce or croquet. I mean, it's just good.
No, I couldn't agree more. Definitely, it's a lot more fun when there's more than one. I in researching you and trying to understand a little bit more about how much you've given to the game. I think I got this right. Did you just kind of fall into your first coaching position? I think I heard you on another show talk about that.
It was a happenstance. It could be a documentary, but no, it was a Catholic school. It was the first all-boys Catholic school in South Jersey, and a friend of mine, after I was scrounging around, I was at prep school, and then went to a small college and didn't do well, and then was going part-time college at Temple University in St. Joe's. And my friend said, this school is looking for coaches. I said, what are you talking about? So we went over there, and they were. I mean, they were new. This is like 59, 60, and now we're really going back. And so we said, we volunteered because we weren't doing anything. And I took the JVs, and he worked with the varsity. But meanwhile, about 6 months later, the varsity coach up and leaves the school and quits like in January, and they had nobody else but me.
Wow.
So that's how I got the first job. And then, I really then liked it, but I knew what I didn't know. And then that's when I started my, in my life of going to people that knew things and pumping them and, creating mentors as much as I could with the coach of Penn, Jack McCloskey, Dr. Jack Ramsey, Harry Litwack, my surrogate at Temple. I mean, I just went to their practices, sat in their offices. I said, I got to learn this game. I can play it on a prep school level, but I can't play in college. So I don't have a college coach that I would duplicate, like guys that left UCLA run John Wooten's high post offense. So it was a churning learning ground. And then we had a bunch of, it was like the stars were aligned. Great potential high school players that the parents that were of the ilk to send them to an all-boys school. And there we were, and then we won 2 state championships back to back. Out of those two kids, we had three players that went into the NBA.
Wow!
Now, how's that happen?
That's amazing.
Yeah, Gary Melchione and Billy Melchione, and we had a kid named Don Kalinowski. Now, he didn't stay that long. He became an all-service player. And then I had a visionary high school coach in the area that retired that really helped. And then sooner or later, I got my own, feel for it and style. But no, it's very unique.
When you go into this thing, they're hiring coaches. You guys show up, and by the circumstance, you get the opportunity. Were you just coaching at that point from some of the things that you knew were effective in the games that you played when you were younger? How did you kind of tread water until you were able to find some of those mentors?
No, I duplicated. When I went over to Penn, and the coach would let me come in and watch practice, I would watch practice, and then go back, and we would have 6:30 practice at the high school. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday was off. And I would go back and maybe do what I saw that day. I did that for a good year, and watch Temple, their practice, and try to mesh it together. And it soon, in about a year, it started formulating that I kind of got a feel for it. And though I didn't stop going over to watch these people practice for 6 years, because they were always up on top of the game. Jack McCloskey became the general manager of the Pistons, or the Bad Boys. Dr. Jack Ramsey, we know him, and my other Harry Litwack, who ended up in the Hall of Fame. So, I was fortunate to be around very good teachers, instructors, and good people that would, if you were interested, they would help you. And I took advantage of it.
That's awesome. I think it's important for us to have mentors. I think that somewhere along the lines we kind of lost that, and now you see some of these like self-help guys and some of these other guys considered gurus and stuff like that. But I definitely think that mentors are important to help you bridge the gap in learning and in gaining experience. Because if you try it, it's definitely going to take a little bit longer.
Well, the thing is, no matter what in our game, no matter what information you receive, you still have to teach it. You just don't go, oh, here it is, boom. No, you have to teach the little nuances, the angles, the percentages, and you got to be aware of that, consistently. And, like in the zone defense, I learned that, brilliantly from the coach of Penn State and coach of Penn and coach of Temple. And you can play zone, but you better teach it, because there's so many variables that can happen in that. And again, as we said, the angles and the percentages of the offense are paramount, and you have to teach that. You just don't react to it. And the thing of it is that many just play, certain things rather than break it down. I don't know how else to say it.
No, I totally understand. You're the fifth best all-time 150 winner, 4 postseason trips in 9 seasons, and the only Temple coach to coach an NBA level team. You were introduced in 2018 at Temple's Hall of Fame. I know we talked a little bit about it, but besides the mentors, what else did you pull from your experience coaching at Temple?
Well, it was a very unique experience, because in the city of Philadelphia, they have 5 major colleges that play basketball: St. Joe's, Villanova, LaSalle, Penn, and Temple. And they formulated what they called the Big Five, where all 5 schools would play the majority of their games on Wednesday night and Saturday night at the Palestra in Philadelphia. The Palestra is probably the oldest right now. I think it was built in 1927. Was one of the first sports arenas where you walked into it and went down to your seats. Where the order of the day, you walked in, then walked up to your seat, to your seats. And many copied that. So I think like the Palestra, Allen Fieldhouse, and Hinckley up at Butler, they may be the last of the 3 arenas that were created because of the strong interest of basketball left. I think there was MacArthur at Oregon, but that has been taken over. So the Big Five, it was very competitive. We all were recruiting in the Philadelphia area, within 60, 70 miles of Philadelphia. It was very competitive, but very, very compatible. Because somebody coached at St. Joe's, he wasn't your enemy. He was your competitor. And if we played St. Joe's and then St. Joe's was playing, say, Wake Forest, who we played, we would turn over our scouting report to St. Joe's because we wanted the Big Five to do good because it was the only city in America that had this formula of Wednesday night doubleheaders and Saturday. So as a high school coach, before I went to Temple in '66, I could go over there on a Wednesday and see LaSalle play Western Kentucky, see Temple play Wake Forest. Sunday, go see Villanova played DePaul, and St. Joe's plays Dayton. You were able to see the styles of play from 3 or 4 different sections of the country coming in to the palestra. So what you were learning from those coaches, like the zone defense from the Temple and Penn, you could see how other teams tried to break it, what their scheme was. Now, the ACC and all that, those people, yeah, they got their league. They play each other, but they never went out. They never, pierced the veil and went elsewhere. I mean, like the Pac-10 with like UCLA, they never played a game west of Vegas until they went into the NCAA. So it was a really educational ground. And the palestra has been, anointed as the cathedral of basketball, basically because of how many teams in America have come in there to play.
Man, you are definitely a lucky guy. Not only do you kind of fall into coaching, but you get this opportunity to basically sim so many games live and, not only teach it, but seeing on the field work and not work. That's got to be an amazing experience.
But, to me, see, the other coaches in my area, they were older, and I was part-time student. I was in the phys ed department of the school back then because in the '60s there was an emergency for teachers. Nobody was teaching, so if you didn't have a degree, as long as you were there with a degree person, you were like, I guess you'd be an intern, whatever the term. That was okay, for the state to ratify it. But that let me a lot of time where the other coaches in the area were full-time teachers. And, they had subjects, they had to check the papers and all. I had free time and took advantage of it. And I was the only high school coach that was ever there in those practices, believe me. When we started winning in the '60s, early '60s, the state championships, which was very difficult in New Jersey because South Jersey, was looked at as a, farmed tomato place. North Jersey was, Newark, Elizabeth, tough Jersey City, tough basketball. I mean, Heinsohn and all those, a lot of Celtics all went to Holy Cross. I mean, it was tough, but we pierced it, and we won up there because of the zone. The zone was so advanced at that time from Penn State that I learned. So I would say yes, but it's like meaningful coincidences. You got to take advantage of a coincidence that's been given to you. You got to recognize it. And I just did it maybe out of, I don't know, yearning. I don't know what the term would be, but I spoke to a group a year ago. Kids said, "You want to be a lawyer? They're going to be I want to be a lawyer." So what do you do about it? What do you mean? Well, do you go over to the courthouse and see them, run a trial? See how these guys. Well, we've been told good lawyers don't go to court. Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to. Good. But you ain't there yet. So go see how these guys present the case. see where their body chemistry, see how they approach the thing. I mean, how else can you learn? You know, that's why they have residents in medical school. And these guys got to learn and see with that. So you can do that in coaching also.
No, I agree. A similar situation with myself and this mission with trying to get into the podcasting space. It really only started to sink in once I started doing it and working around people and practicing it and seeing other people doing it. I learned by watching, so that totally makes a lot of sense. Now you're in this amazing, and pardon the pun, but you're in this bubble. You're learning from great guys. Everybody's sharing. Everybody wants this community to elevate and to prove to college basketball that some of the best players come from this part of the region. How does that differ from you headed into the NBA in '82?
Well, I was not a real pro guy because the colleges were so strong in Philly. Paul Westhead and Jimmy Lynam. They ended up at Portland and the Clippers. I mean, they liked the pro game. They did their summertime. They coached in Puerto Rico, which was a pro league down there. 30-second clock. They got into that. We didn't do that. We had a little basketball camp over the high school where I coached, and the priest let me still run the camp. So it was a little bit of a jolt. I really didn't know the game that much. I could watch it at times, but it was a transformation, and amazing so. Up close and personal, see how quick and decisive these players were, how the decision making, how the game is now 48 minutes, it's not 40. You got a wider lane, you got a 24-second clock, you got big people in the playing post. And it took me about maybe 3 years before I felt a little bit comfortable, within the league. The league's hard.
No, I could imagine. I mean, if you're saying it was hard in '82 and it still seems to be difficult, that's got to be even more of stress on your mind. When it came to, obviously, the recruiting process in college was a little bit easier. I don't remember because I'm a little younger, but in '82, '85, around those times, mid '80s. Free agents weren't a big thing, so you had to cultivate a lot of players from the draft. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So that being the case, did you have also kind of an upper hand, understanding not only the principles and the philosophies, but some of these communities as well, where to kind of get players?
Well, that's another unique setting, between the players who have a good union, the refs have a good union, and then the agents are the agents. But you're only as good as a coach as your front office. You have to have a good president. You have to have a good general manager. You have to have a basketball operations that has good the scouts that go out. Back in those days, they really watched them play. There wasn't all video. And you really had to rely on their judgment because by the time you got to see them, it was towards the end. A lot of those scouts were watching them for 2 or 3 years because there was no one and done back then. And the agents, they were doing what they could. They wormed them out. The ones that were just trying to extract money from it, and the league and the Players Association got together, and you have to qualify to be an agent, and they put the percentage of 4% that they could only take from a player because some were taking 10, 12%, wiping them out. So we became under control. It's now, a very good business setting for both parts.
That's amazing. That it ended up working out. I could only imagine, if there wasn't these.
Well, David Stern and the player agent that died, Fleischer. Both of them in the 80s saved the game because the drugs were paramount. The lottery was coming in, and Larry Fleischer representing the players, and David. I mean, they really got together and came up with a workable solution that was improved each year, which is good for the players, good for the owners, and saved the game. If you didn't have David Stern and Fleischer, I don't know what would happen.
Well, I'm happy, like I said, that they had those gentlemen in place to kind of straighten it out. Speaking of guys like Stern, what was probably one of your favorite moments in the NBA while you were coaching, or favorite places to coach when you were in the NBA?
Well, as they say, the favorite place of yours is where you have a job. But of the jobs of being in Chicago for a short pre-Jordan, San Diego, and LA, the best setting city-wise was Boston. It was very condensed. It's a walk-around city, and we were in the old section of Back Bay, which is really full, right across from MIT. You had the Garden. You had a strong tradition with Red Auerbach, great owners, and they put a great team together, even though I got in there at the tail end with Bird, McHale, and Parrish, and Reggie Lewis. Unfortunately, that passed. But it was a very good professional setting and a good city for sports. It's only about 800,000. And they got 3 sports in there. They got the hockey, baseball, and the basketball. Of course, the Patriots are outside. So that would be the best city that I've been to.
Sounds like a great time. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, so I've never been able to, or never allowed myself to get up to Boston. But Boston definitely has a huge, rich culture, and it definitely stems from the Celtics. I wanted to ask you. I know you said you got there at the tail end of it. What was it like to coach a guy like Larry Bird, or is it a lot easier because he's so in tune with the game?
Well, it's a yes and no. I mean, the thing is that you really don't coach. You're really trying to manage. Like Chris Ford was there for years. It's like Tom Hanks with Spielberg. That Spielberg and the coach of a team is trying to put the player in the best position to express his skills. Now, it's a movement game, but there's movable parts and spots to go, etc. Hanks loves Spielberg because of his direction. Bird respects hardworking coaches that will challenge him, not try to direct him per se. McHale and Parrish the same way, like they've been there. So what are you going to do to make them consistently sharp, etc.? Different ways, practice schedule. Maybe only go 50 minutes a day, but they came up with challenge drills. Otherwise, you challenge Larry to a drill, and what would that be? Well, Larry's playing so-and-so one-on-one. Larry can only take one dribble. Oh, now what does he do? Or if you put him down at the box with his back turned to the basket, he has to catch the ball and turn and face. Oh, okay. And then next time he catches it, he can't turn and face. He's got to back the guy in. So there was like structured drills to try to enhance them, create the rivalry between they and the second unit, which it was very highly competitive in all parts. They would then challenge each other. But when you get like a Birdman would be, and I think Jordan would fall into it. Others, once they cross the white line, as you'd say, go on the court, they're the most focused people that you meet. It's all, it is scary how focused they are, how into it, how they know what's going on, how they have court awareness, perception, time. They're special. They're not any better than you and I as a person, but they're special. Hanks is special. Spielberg. There's those special people that there, and they scare you to a certain extent. I mean, it's really, as soon as they walk off the line, they calm down and they're back in the normal setting of life. But when they get on that court, they are, focused and determined and persistent and play hard. It's very unique.
That's actually really, really interesting because, a lot of people talk about the zone, and most people, I think the zone is only when the game is being played. Allen Iverson has that big snafu about, calling out practice, but that's actually really profound that even in the practice, this man was more dialed in than anyone else on the court at that time.
Oh, no, it wasn't even close. The practices, what you saw in the game was really, something. We saw it every day at practice. When I first went there, I just couldn't believe it. And they would play games, 5-on-5, just right, and there would only be 7 baskets. And why? Because it was so fierce that they wanted it ended then. They didn't want to go to 10, 11, 12 baskets, as they do, because the competition was so strong. On the second unit of Boston at that time, you had Joe Klein, Kevin McHale, and Kevin Pickney, all first-rounders.
Wow.
Absolute first-rounders. And that would have been like Brian Shaw and Dee Brown would be the second unit. The first unit was that Bird Parrish and Kevin Gamble could really stroke it, and John Bagley and Reggie Lewis. It's a war.
That's unbelievable that they were even, I'm not going to use the word allowed, but that all those guys got there. Like you said, you have to tip your cap to the coaching department, the scouting department, and all the guys that were able to put such an amazing team together.
And they took, guys that were off the end, like Klein was first pick. Pickney was in the first 3. And then that the other teams, like said, well, their time is up. But see, Red Auerbach was a genius in that, we don't need a lot of their time. We just need some of their time.
Wow, that's profound.
I got fired with the Clippers, and we did well. We had 31 wins, but that wasn't good enough. With Jabbar, Malone, all those guys were in the conference. And I go to Boston. We're 32-6.
Wow.
And we're all-star coaches in 1 year.
My favorite quote.
32-6.
Unbelievable.
Every game you go out to expect to win. They don't go out like you should win or could win. They go out that you expect to win. That's what you do at the Boston Garden.
That's powerful stuff. One of my favorite quotes from you is, "The NBA is not soft now; it's just different. The NBA was much better in the '80s and the '90s." And obviously, based on what you're saying now, that's still true, correct?
Well, that I don't want to take that out of context. It's better. Everything is relative. Because of the players staying in school 3 years at least, you created big players, post players, like the Kleins, like the Mornings, the Rick Schmidts, the Ewings, Larry Johnson, those guys. You can go. Every team had a post player, because playing in the post is a hard job. It takes time. Where if you're playing on the perimeter as a guard, you can acclimate very quickly from college to the pro. They can't do that. And with the big guys, even Shaq, he struggled like hell the first year or so in the league, because he's playing against big guys every night. They're fouling them, they're beating them up. So that physical part of the game was there. That is not there anymore. That means the teams today do not have one post guy of a prevalence on their squad. They just don't. Why? The one and done has hurt it. Secondly, you just can't go play 1 year in college and expect to have a factor in the NBA. Hell, I mean, you go into the NFL, you have quarterbacks, if I can relate that to both, they stay 4 or 5 years in college before they come out. That's how demanding that position is. You know, I said to David Stern once, is our game so easy to play that a high school guy can come in to play? And he looked at me like, you know. But you should, I mean, what are you talking about? The NFL's got the thing wired. I mean, you got 3 years of college for 2 reasons. One, now they're getting better players coming in. 2, you're getting an all-around player. And 3, it's good for the college game. And you keep developing these players. And they're going to make money. Everybody makes money. Not that, the economics and the the poor kids that can play basketball. The poor kids are playing football too. I mean, everybody's going to make $1 if you get to that level. So here we are. So you can get a physical specimen like LeBron. He can play 5 more years. Believe me. Because the league is weak, it's not weak. I mean, it's how many players can you have that the league has to develop? I mean, you got one guy goes to college, and now he's in the league. Well, how long is he going to be good in the league? Well, the league will develop him in 3, 4 years. Oh, okay, if you can wait that long. And when you get drafted, you're in with a bad team, a bad franchise. The player gets, beat up. Then he gets out of there. Look at Anthony Davis. I mean, you can cite these guys all over the place. Once they get out of under, they excel. So, I mean, it's this bit of, anybody can play the game. I mean, it's an insult to the game. But here's the problem. They do. They're playing. Why are they playing? Because they're playing against other guys like them. And when you get to the playoffs, you'll never, ever see a playoff team of substance that has young people. Never. You saw there all those teams at the end, all the veterans that they had at the Lakers. The veterans that they had on all those teams, that's how they got there. The young ones, they don't get there. Now you're building for the future? Yeah. 3, 4 coaches get fired or whatever. The Sixers, they get beat up so much they don't know how to win the big ones. So, yeah. I mean, yes, it is what it is.
I had two questions, but I don't know which one I want to pick first. But I wanted to ask you this because I think this is probably more important. The way winning is a culture, because you just touched on it, is losing a culture too? Are some of these teams just, stricken by, the image of losing all the time that the guys kind of buy into? Or like, how hard is it to turn around a team that's just known for winning, for losing historically?
Hard.
Right?
Hard, but they've gotten better at it. There's great coaching in the league today. Young coaches, and a couple of older guys like Carlisle and Popovich. The coaching has gotten better. The ownerships are stronger than ever. You just don't have to write a check. They've got that down with that, and the culture can be reversed, not quickly, but competitively, that you can be in it, and no, it's a different scene. The general managers are young and aggressive and progressive today. Then with the coaching, like at Boston and Malone and Utah and Vogt has done a terrific job with the Lakers. The Doc Rivers and the Popoviches and Terry Stouts. I mean, they're the Gentrys. They're there, but no, it's reversible.
Okay, that's actually good news. And then with the one and dones, because you're obviously saying that you need to cultivate talent more within the specific talent. Who's pushing the narrative of the one and dones? Is it the NBA? Is it the NCAA?
No, the union.
The NBA Players Union.
Yep.
And that's because?
Well, the reasoning was they're talented people, and economically they need to, they could use the money for themselves, their families, and all that, and they can play. But when you go back as the years progress, would they play back then? Well, yeah, but they wouldn't be as much needed because of the seasoned player that you were getting out. Like Ewing. Could Ewing play when he came out of high school? I don't know. I mean, the way it's going, possibly. But how long did Ewing stay in school? Mutombo, 2-3 years. He just didn't walk into, to play. You may have, the Moses Malone and the Dawkins that can come in, but you're going to go with Darryl Dawkins, the team he came in with Julius and the terrific, solid winning team. Yeah, he can do that. He can be part of that. He can't, he's not going to deliver you to the promised land. But the Waltons and Kareems and this. So you got to remember Walton and Kareem. Those guys played freshman basketball. They didn't play varsity basketball right away. Now, is that good or bad? I think dropping the freshman rule, in a selfish way, it hurt coaches because they don't know how to prepare practice and whatnot. Okay, but again, as I said, if a high school coach, a high school player coming out to play in the NBA, does it happen in Major League Baseball? Does it happen in hockey? Does it happen in football? Of course not. There's 300-pound kids that are playing, at Cathedral High School or these modern day strong kids, 250. But they know that they're not, ready for it physically, social-wise, attitude-wise. But their unions say, we want to keep these, kids in school, for a lot of reasons. And one is to make sure that they're taught properly and they can, be better prepared to come into the league, even though the football is like 3.7 with it. But again, I think one of those quarterbacks was 6 years at Stanford.
Wow.
He didn't go into the league till he was 24.
Jeez. I mean, it makes sense, right?
I mean,
when you go to school, bringing it back to when you were saying a lawyer, right? You don't take the lawyer out of before grad school, right? And before law school. It's like these guys need to learn and to become seasoned. You check the football thing. If the way they work it, if they stay 3 years, okay. Well, they're there all year long. I mean, with the strength and conditioning programs, so they're getting close to like 27 to 30 credits a year, college-wise. So if they come out like in their 3 years, they're going to be like 90, 95 credits to the college, which they can make up online. Those that redshirt a year, they're coming out with credits that are right there for them to get. Now, with the average life in the NFL, being what it is, and only their key people are getting the big dollars. Yeah, the thing is that their life is so short on there. Universally speaking, you always hear the guys 10 years. Even the NFL is keeping players alive, active through their nutrition, their sports management, their strength and conditioning. They're just not throwing them out there. They want to keep them. So there is a little bit more of a life, but there's that opportunity to be a college graduate. Now,
Is it necessary? Well, in some cases, yes, but it's nice to have, as your trump card as you move on, because you're not going to be playing football forever, over in Italy or Spain or France like they do in basketball. The NBA guys will go over there at the end, but sometimes, you have to realize when these kids today, if you think about it, go in at 18, 19 years old, they're go into sports. They're going to live for 60 more years at the minimum. Within the next 50 years, 90 years old will be like walking around the corner looking at these people walking their dogs. They're going to live 60, 70 more years. What are you going to do with those years? You can't play. I don't care if you make $30 million, stretch that over 60 years. You better have a good financial advisor. So, there are things that you need to do, and they're doing it today. LeBron and his Maverick, I mean, they're terrific, what they've created as offshoots of the position they put into. Durant is doing a lot of stuff in the documentaries, and also they're getting much more smarter and keeping themselves up to date with today's world, which is the social media, which you don't have to go out and sell real estate or sell cars or whatever. So it's a changing scene, and I think it's changing for the better.
No, I believe so too. I definitely think that these marquee guys are starting to understand how to leverage their brand and extend the brand longer, and you get less guys going bankrupt, in their mid 30s. I wanted to ask you, because you brought it up and you were saying that the players union is trying to get these guys earlier onto the field. How do you feel, and this might be a touchy subject, but how do you feel about maybe creating some kind of stipend or paying some of these college players? Because some people argue that the education isn't enough in now's temperature or climate. What do you think?
Well, for basketball, they've got that league going, which I don't know very much about, where the player can make 90,000 or 100,000. It's like not the D League,
the G League,
but the D League is, they don't make much money there, but it's a way to get into the NBA. It's like the minor leagues. Is that with the 10-day, people, you can bring them up for 10, 20 days, guys to get hurt. They are going into that direction, that if a kid has no interest in college whatsoever, just to play, they're opening up avenues for that. As to the college player, the new scene, when we're playing, we're coaching, or we have a 9,000 arena, that thought never came into mind. But if you think about the 15, 18, 20,000 seat arenas, and these kids are getting scholarships, and that's it, I think there's room for discussion on that. I really do. I never thought that way in the past, but today with the TV contracts being so huge, and the players really being used for 2 or 3 years, and the scholarship, fine, I agree with that. But there are those that know that they are just commodities.
Adrian Foster once said that it was difficult to be classified as a student athlete. Do you think that it was easier before, harder now, or about the same?
Well, in the old days, I mean, they try to have a full, 16 credit roster. They got smart. You need 12 to compete, so that would be 12 each semester. That's 24. So really, you need summer school, to get the other 6, and you're in the 30. So in 4 years, you're close to getting enough to get out. Being 16, 18 credits and playing practice and traveling all over, that was pretty damn hard. Now, a lot of teams would have the summer school available to live on campus and all. A lot of city schools back in our day did not have that. You didn't have the ability, you have the ability for the local kids, but not for the distant kids. But I think today it's more manageable than it was in the past. Yes.
To switch gears for a second, when we were talking about, potentially the NBA being softer now, we didn't want to classify that. And you said, it could have been misconstrued because it was taken out of context. But you guys played a harder nose style of basketball. Now, one can argue that it's a much more finesse style. Do you see maybe some coaches in the future maybe going back to that old school style, maybe being more heavy reliant on putting big mans down low, using zones, using some of the things that were effective before, or has the game evolved and we might not go back?
Well, the coaches can only coach what they have. I mean, you can't make a post man if he's big, just to go through him. I thought in the playoffs that there was a lot of interesting contact. Like LeBron took a lot of charges. Miami takes charges as part of their culture. So in that part, they were, putting their bodies at risk with that. The softness quote, term would be that, there are 4 players out and maybe one's inside, 4 out, 1 in. So it's more dribble handoff, more pick and roll. There's not the pounding inside and doing cuts. That, is the pass. Teams are doing some today, which is good. Like, they posting up the guards, which is good. Reggie Lewis was a good poster player. Marbury and Mark Jackson were terrific down there. But you had other offshoots if they did not do well. So I would say I don't think that there's a drastic change coming up because of the material and the quality of the players that they have. They have to do what they got to do. And if it's a 1-3-1 zone or no zone or a 2-3 zone, they can adapt. But the offense it is what it is until you get some big presence.
No, I totally get you. When you were talking earlier about some of the drills that you went through with the Celtics, specifically Bird, do you feel that some of the players now have a hard time scoring without the ball?
You mean getting in a position to score?
Right. Yes. Where they don't have to handle. When you have the ball. No, I know, but it's a potentially a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke.
They can score. The 3-point shot is a lethal shot. I mean, they have got that down. They put them in a corner. They're like pillars in a corner at the top of the circle. They can, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. Long shots are long rebounds, and teams that grab and go down and run. Because the offense is so spread out. The 3-point is here forever, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you can get 3 rather than 2, unless you got a play call, you're not going to throw it inside. I mean, it's not part of the chemistry. Now, coaches will make the adaptation, but it's more 3-point and then dribble drive, and you get the layup because the league still has what they call an illegal defense. You can't be in the lane to help out on defense. If you're in the lane defensively more than 3 seconds, it's called an illegal defense. They get a foul shot and taking the ball out. It's old world. It's ridiculous. They don't do it in the Olympics when we play. They don't do it when we send under-9 teams over. The WNBA doesn't have an illegal defense. The teams in Europe do not have it, but they have it here. They think it's good. It creates scoring. Scoring means people will watch that. So that part is another discussion. The illegal defense. There's no league in the world, in the professional or anything, that legislates and tells you what tactfully you can't do on defense.
That's insane.
But the NBA has it. It'd be like saying to the NFL that you only can play man-for-man defense in your secondary because the fans like passing. They like the excitement of it. Where the defensive coordinator would say,
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no kidding. Do you think that maybe because of the de-evolution of fans, it's leading more to scoring, and we're not having, I wouldn't want to say as competitive, but we're losing some of the nuances, right? Because now the NFL is about airing it out, and the NBA is about the long shot. Are we changing it just because that's what sells tickets and puts meats in the seats?
I think it's marketing, sure. And to many, it is exciting. The 3-point shot is now like a normal shot, but it was part of the package, but not the essential part because there was other things to do. Because but the illegal defense that they had back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s was another story. So David Stern got rid of it because he thought it was bad for the game. But no, it's in the NBA's mind, points mean stands.
That makes sense. I mean, I guess we're hungry for it. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to watch 80 versus 85 scoring margin, or no one wants to watch a 10-7 football game, which sucks because that's where I think you get to see the coaches really excel, and you get to really see some of the amazing performances of grinding out games. But it seems to be lost on the average fan. And as the fan bases grow and get more diversified, not all are in love with every little nuance that the game brings.
Well, the fan of the NBA the last 15 years, I mean, this is the only thing they've seen.
Right.
So I mean, they're hooked.
It looks
but if
good.
you have a 90 to an 80 game, there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. I thought early on, or more recently, Chicago with Thibodeau really showed that defenses still can dominate. I think Popovich also has been a guy. You take the air out of the game. And I like I said, for me, it's more interesting, but I find it really, really fascinating because you slow the game down, you force tougher shots. Guys got to make tougher decisions with less time versus everybody just throwing up circus shots, and it's like 120, to 130.
Well, the adage was, what is your point differential? So you can win 95 to 80. That's 15 points. Coaches like that. So that does that mean that it has to be like 120 to 105? Who knows? But a W is a W. And believe me, if they're playing the game that we were just describing and they're winning, fans will appreciate it, even with the triangle with the Bulls that took the time off the clock as the way they surgically went after you. But at the same time, Jordan and all those guys, if there was a steal, long rebound, they were like out of the gate. So it's as I said, it's a push-pull league if it wants to be, where you then either blow them out if you can, or you surgically go after them.
Yeah, no, that's a really valid point. I know we talked a little bit earlier about you called them the Birdman. You got to coach him for his final season. You also got to coach Bryant in his final season. I think the term that you referred to was crossing the line. Obviously, Kobe was an intense practice player as well, correct?
I know Kobe's father very well because I tried to recruit him to Temple when I was an assistant. And I got to know Kobe at the '08 Olympics. I really didn't have that much involvement with him because that time when I was up there with Byron and Jim Ian, we were doing a lot of zone, and Kobe was like he was like not practicing; he was hurt or recovering. But I mean, as one who has been in the coaching circles and talking to the coaches around, yes. When he used to come in early to shoot, back, 3 or 4 years before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So they said, no, early. I said, what do you mean? Like 6 a.m. What? 7 a.m., whatever it was. Then shoot hard, take a shower, get ready, go, have breakfast for the players, and go out and practice. So when they say he came in early, see, Bird would stay late, but he would come in early. And I think those guys, they get annoyed, like if others don't stay or do, who are not as good as them, with the intensity that they have. In many cases, you can't match their intensity. You just can't. They're so unique. You can go after it, and maybe you can, but it's really, really hard, and they're in their own tunnel.
Was Kobe? I know you say you didn't get that much time with him, but you understand him. You were trying to recruit him. Was he potentially? I mean, we got a couple, but was he potentially an official, let's say, genius at basketball, where he didn't need the college refinement, or that's not 100% accurate?
That's an interesting question, and that could be a debated answer. First, he grew up, in his formative years in Italy when his dad was playing there, and was now playing against what we talked about earlier, the club teams, with the people older than himself, more into the game than would be, say, someone in junior high school or grammar school. So I think that was a good setting for him. And for some reason, he just had that, that gene. When he came over to play at Lower Merion, he was physically stronger than most and very perceptive. We at Boston, he had his first official workout with us at Boston. I think Orrin Tellem was his agent. And then I was in New Jersey interviewing for a job, and they asked me to come watch him, work out there. So we were right there in the first 2-3 workouts, and it was very intense. And he was very good, very athletic, skilled for his age. One of those, prodigies. I don't know how else to say it, but I never knew how in depth he was until the TV documentary after he retired, of how he was going into business, how he figured things out, how he was talking to Bill Gates, I didn't really know he was that deep. And obviously he was with the game as well as with the life that the game gave him. He's one of the unique ones.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I was having a conversation with somebody earlier about this. I think we're so quick to throw around the word superstar and genius, or the word is slipping my mind that you use, but somebody who's just naturally gifted, and it might not just be basketball, but it just comes to them. I don't think people like that grow on trees. So I gotta say, I learned a lot talking to you, but I think I took my biggest takeaway from our discussion was that you can always better your best, and not everybody's going to be, a genius right out the gate. And the fact that the one and done sense, I hate to use this word, but talent that still needs training might arguably lower the level of competition in the NBA. And I know it's at its highest, but it makes sense why the 80s and the 90s were so dominant. I mean, you had players coming to you well-rounded, as you mentioned, but also more tools in the utility belt. I feel like the learning curve had to be shorter. Now with these gentlemen coming out and the offenses be different, it must be a lot harder for the coaches to cut and dial these guys in.
No, well, the coaches are very adaptable. What was is not is. And those who live in the past and that premise, like, I don't know about this team, I don't have a post guy. Well, they're not going to succeed. They have to adapt on what's going on in the present. and I think that's good. That's strong in the league. I think they are good. I think these coaches are adapting, and those that don't are not going to to survive. So you have to adjust and improvise your mind to what is now going on. Now the old the fundamentals of the game are always there. The fundamentals of the stock market are always there. The fundamentals of the acting, or the method actors, this and that, that's there. But now the coaches have to be in tune of, maxing out the talent they have and not, trying to push them into something that's not there, at least at this time. And I think that most of them are doing that. I really have a high regard for the coaching in the NBA, where in the past I thought it was a little less guys that just played the game and then came into coaching without going through the rigors of the game. Put a little damper on things. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, no, I guess the game has truly evolved to another stratosphere, which is great. That there's not only tools but gentlemen in positions to get the best out of these guys. I know you're busy, but I wanted to get your opinion on a couple more things, and then I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. I know you love basketball. You used to come into the bar all the time. I never knew that you were a coach, so it totally makes sense how glued to the TV you were and watching and all these things. Wanted to ask your opinion on some of these other players that are trying to flirt with the idea of superstar, but they kind of keep kicking themselves in the face. Kyrie, do you believe if he could get out of his own way, he can take a team to the next level?
Irving?
Yes. Right.
Well, from the outside looking in, it doesn't look that way. I don't know. I mean, it's some players don't get it, even though they can play it. I don't know. It's unprofessional for certain things. The big item is be professional. Coach, player, everyone wants to be that way, and not showing up for the media day, stamping his feet and so forth. That's a bad sign. And I think it's, I don't know what he's yearning for. I don't know what he's crying out for. I don't know what the attention that he needs. But I think it's not in a good place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've never coached a minute of basketball. I've played a little bit, but it doesn't look good. And from another outsider looking in, already they're claiming that the Nets are one of the best teams in the East, yet they have this gentleman on that team, and I don't know how effective he will make them if he continues the off-field antics.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth watching, viewing. I mean, you can have the talent, but the talent has to blend.
Do you think that's something that they're messing up now with some of these like super squads, and they're just trying to fit guys on a team? Because obviously you need chemistry. I mean, I've seen bad teams have great chemistry beat superstar teams with no chemistry.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, though, that's an interesting concept where they're ganging up, where you can put two. You only need two supers, and you need three. The third guy can be very good. Fourth guy, good. The other guy is just a pro. And if they work together to get on the team, I think it could work. I don't know what combination that would be the names, but I can see that in their minds. Whereas like a quick fix, a quick hit. But as it goes along, like what Boston's doing with all their draft picks, yes. But I don't know that answer.
So you said you touched on it that some guys just don't get it. Obviously, Harden is an amazing scorer, and I'm sure you've seen people who are really great in like you said earlier, stroking it. Is there something that happens to not only him, but certain players when they get to the playoffs? He seems to flatten out. he's not the same guy that he is in the regular season. What are your thoughts on
Well, that can happen, but the concentration when you're playing 3 games, you're playing the team 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in a row. I mean, you can really do different things rather than I'm playing Houston tonight, I got to play San Antonio tomorrow night. It's not that simple. They can groove in with that. But I think they're a little bit of a flux in Houston with the coach leaving. Players have been wanting to leave, new ownership, general manager left. And the players feel that, they can sense when something is not, not smooth, not good in their minds. So I can see where he can get into the framework where he is now. Where it'll lead to, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely troubling because I feel like they've had a couple opportunities to do some stuff there in Houston, and Houston does have a rich culture of winning and of players.
I mean, when you turn down $50 million a year for 2 years, you got to go see a shrink for that.
I agree 100%. And then I'll make this my final. So it's so complicated. Okay, so if you had to name your past, future, present, your 3, 4, 5 guys that are tops. I mean, you see Shaq argue with it. You see Barkley argue about it. Who are the top players all time? Because I feel like LeBron kind of gets dealt a raw deal, but you can't argue going 6 for 6 is just something to just open your mouth and be awed at with Michael. But then there's other guys. You have Bird. I mean, some people try to discount what Bill Russell did. Who are some of the gentlemen that you think are not in any specific order, but that are the all-time greats?
Well, I think that question. I mean, I see that, and even when we were in draft meetings, like when we were at Boston, and I think it was Kittles, some of those people were up. They said, "Well, can he guard Scottie Pippen?" Well, Scottie Pippen's been in the league 5, 6, 7 years. Maybe he could guard him when he was like, coming into the league. And when you go into these guys with a different, concept of the game, you could hand check at one time, you could bump them at one time, and they could score. And then they came in, and illegal defense is here, illegal defense is there. You can't touch the offense. You can't. No, I think that there's those that have their presence of the game that you can relate to. None of us probably saw Wilt play, or Heinsohn play, or Cousy play, or Russell play. Maybe some flicks going back. Dolph Shays, that era. Hal Greer, Lenny Wilkins. That to me is a question which has limited answers. I mean, it's relative for the moment, but I mean, it is what it is. People want to pick this guy out, that guy out. I mean, is there ever going to be anybody with a better hook than Jabbar? I mean, you got Jabbar, Chamberlain, and Russell. Well, you mean you got to throw 2 of those guys off? If you keep all 3 of them, then who else you got? You only got 2 positions left. How about Elgin? So it's cute. It's a trivia game. It's a barstool discussion, but to me, I don't dig it.
Well, I got to tell you, Don, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had as much fun as I did. These stories are amazing.
Interesting.
I would love to.
You're smarter than I thought. You're going.
I know.
I got to go down to the Pioneer there. I got to have a little more respect.
Thank you. That's hilarious. I'm. Some call me a court jester, so I gotta, fill my role. You gotta play roles sometimes on teams, and that role was the role I was playing. But
you better talk to your agent, Michael, my son, because that's how I got on here.
I know. Trust me, we're definitely getting him on. I want to get you back on if you would grace us with your presence again. Your wealth of knowledge and how well you understand the NBA is amazing. I can listen to you for hours. Thanks so much, Don, for coming on.
All right. Anytime. See you, man.
Yes, sir. Take it easy. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay healthy.